On Sunday, Trevor Phillips interviewed Nigel Farage. Most people focused on the fact that Nigel Farage was incredibly incendiary about Muslims. However, there was one piece about Brexit. Trevor Phillips actually held Nigel Farage responsible for the uptick in immigration, and he is right to do so. Nigel Farage wanted Brexit and an Australian point system. The point system from Australia caused immigration in Australia to increase, and at the end of this film you will see confirmation of that. And not only that, Brexit ensured we left the Dublin Convention, which means that asylum seekers were always going to increase. Nigel Farage is just using immigration as a hook to push division and hatred.
Those figures last week, if you look at the sheer numbers that were coming in last week, you really have to ask yourself
something. The thing that you're worried about is your responsibility. You're the father of the policy that produced this.
No,
that made the EU migrants leave
Trevor,
and increased the number of non-EU migrants.
Big load of cobblers I've ever heard in my life. What we did by leaving the European Union was to change a policy, which meant we discriminated against the rest of the world, often against talent, interestingly, in favour of an open door with the European Union. What Brexit did was give us back control of our own, by the way, we're not even discussing Dover, get us back control of our legal migration policy. What is a fact?
It is a consequence of Brexit.
No, it's a consequence of government policy.
It only happened after Brexit. You essentially denying that you have anything to do with the change in immigration policy.
100%. We said was...
Even though the point of your whole campaign was to put it under our control.
Yes.
Boris Johnson used it in whatever... You can argue about it, but...
No, it was your... argue. Look at the figures.
It was your responsibility that put it in Boris Johnson's hands. He then used it in a particular way. Now, you might want...
No, I'm really sorry, but that is absolute rubbish. Getting back control of our own country means we can't blame the European Union.
Okay.
We can't blame anybody else. Those figures... This was done by a Conservative government, and they thought they'd get away with it.
Okay. Nigel is projecting again. It is Nigel Farage who scaremongered about immigration and scaremongered about what remaining in the European Union would mean, which was totally untrue.
If we vote to remain in the European Union, we'll finish up in a political union with open borders with Turkey.
And here's Nigel Farage in 2015 pushing for the Australian point system and Brexit, of course.
What we want to do is to change our relationship with the European Union, take back control of our borders and put in place a positive immigration policy, one that the people of Britain would overwhelmingly support, and by that I mean we want an Australian-style point system to decide who comes to live, work and settle in this country.
Here is a clip explaining how the Australian point system has ensured more immigration in Australia. It was always the case that Nigel Farage has not been telling the truth.
Australia has come a long way since the days of the £10 POM. Back then, the country remarkably had a white Australia policy, where Europeans with pale faces were given priority. But that was the 20th century, and this is the Asian century. This isn't Shanghai, it's Sydney. Those following the debate in the UK might be surprised to know Australia has a higher proportion of migrants than almost any other developed country.
Australia is one of the most diverse societies in the world. 28% of our population were born overseas, and if you add in their children, you'd have to say that 45% of people in Australia have either a personal migration experience or their parents do.
And the fastest growing migrant sector is skilled workers from Asia, coming here under the points-based immigration system.
It's easy to see why people want to move to Australia, one of the world's most livable and prosperous countries. But how does the immigration point system work? Well, age is a key factor. Generally, the younger, the better. 25 to 32 will score you the most points. Then there's education. Having a university degree is good. Work experience and also proficiency in English.
Britain actually already operates its own points system for non-EU migrants. But if it were expanded as Brexit supporters want, what would the impact be?
There's no reason to think that immigration would fall with a points-based system, because there are gaps in the labour force that can be effectively and rapidly filled by migrants.
When we're campaigning to rejoin the European Union, we will be able to say truthfully that we will take back control of our borders and life will begin to get better again. And let's hope now that we're in the general election that once the Labour government are in power, we will begin that process to get back in the European Union. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below. Let me know what you think.